X-Men 97 begins its finale. The Bad Batch is over. Ryan Reynolds is our new fall guy. WWE is about to experience some backlash, and there's a whole lot more to talk about on this episode of Comic Book Nation, the only show that does it all for geek culture and the official podcast of ComicBook.com. Welcome back to our latest Season 6 episode. This is the live show, and joining me today are my co-hosts, Matthew Aguilar.
What's up, everybody?
Janelle Wheeler.
Hello, hello.
And back with us again, Mr. Connor Casey.
Yay!
What's going on, gang?
So, guys, like I said at the start, we got a lot to do. So, let's just get right into it. We don't have to do much preamble except to say, Comic Book Nation, we have a whole bunch of shows. This is our Friday live show where we get to interact with all our favorite fans and commenters. But, make sure you check out the rest of the stuff in the feed because we've been dropping like 3 or 4 shows every week. But we'll get to that later. Up first, guys, Matt, it's time for you to get your feels off because we had a big new trailer that dropped this week in what I like to call the Matt lane of the business. It was from Disney. It was a Disney movie, and it's the very controversial prequel to The Lion King called Mufasa, The Lion King, and we got our first trailer look at that. So all I'm really here to ask is, Matt, are you down with it? Like, that's all I want to know. Are you down with it? How you doing?
How you doing? I am down with it. I'm not gonna lie and say that like Lion King is obviously such an iconic film, and Mufasa is such a integral part of that. Even though we all know what happens to him and how that affects Simba, right? So like, I didn't necessarily, when this was first announced, I went, oh, I know there's also a sequel coming, correct? To Lion King, the live action? I thought there was a sequel as well that was coming in addition to this, or maybe this
Yes, I believe it's The Return of Jafar.
Nice. So, I really think like, I was like, okay, prequel, Mufasa's story. I don't know if that's like a story like I need, right? I don't know if like it has my interest there. And then I saw the trailer and by the end it won me over. I think a lot of people are kind of, like, how does Timon and Pumbaa fit into this? I mean, obviously they're younger and stuff, but like, all that came up immediately once people found out they were in it. As someone who adored them in the live action, the job Billy Eichner and Seth Rogen did in that first live action movie, I'm just happy to have them. I don't really like figure it out how to work it in the storyline. I don't care. I just love them. So I am glad they're back in some way. And man, I mean, it's beautiful. I do think what will aid this one, where Lion King got some pushback, was that it was really kind of followed the original really to the core. It made little changes here and there, but that's it. And so people were like kind of called out predictability, even though I don't really quite understand that. You know what you're getting when you go to these, but this, they're open. I mean, obviously that Mufasa is gonna like have a child and where he's going, but like a lot of the stuff in between can be different and you don't know what's coming necessarily. So I think that will aid this and lend itself with the beautiful CGI at work. So I'm in. I wasn't 100% sold coming into it, but I'm in at the end.
I mean, I wasn't in until I kind of got the framework of the story because this sounded a little too Star Wars-y nostalgia to me at first. But it is interesting, and I think I'm at a place in maybe just life. This is just me, like middle-aged Kofi Outlaw, stuck between the hells of dealing with parent stuff and being a parent. I think this is interesting that this is a story that a granddaughter who doesn't get to know her grandfather is hearing about her grandfather's, presumably to help give something in her life focus and to understand family and tradition and cycles and stuff like that. So that's where that kind of stuff and that repetitiveness can work in a certain sense, if there's like an actual thematic point about family in it. It's also interesting that this is a story about a king, but to train a queen, presumably, or a young princess lion to become a queen. So that's also an interesting shift dynamic in the Lion King franchise, obviously. So, I think I'm interested in not so much as me. Obviously, I made the joke about Matt because, I don't have heart left to sit down and watch these kinds of movies with any kind of soul.
It's not true. Not true at all.
GIF of Dennis Reynolds sitting in a restaurant watching Frank choke with my face just kind of like, but people who do feel, I think this could, elicit some real human style emotions out of them. And I think, it could actually, earn its place as a worthwhile prequel, because, there are ways to do prequels right. And we've seen that in certain select cases where the prequel either reveals something new we didn't know, or history that is different than what we thought it was, or expands upon what happens in the franchise that is so iconic, right? And I think this could do that. So, yeah.
Yeah. I'm with you. I have a real, okay, we're not going to go down that road. I have a real issue with certain things in the comments, I will say, that that get me riled up in a way about some of the reactions to things and Disney remakes and live action remakes, but we're not going to go down that road. I want to stay positive today. So you know what?
Yeah, you're a big, let's just put out a blanket statement and leave it at that, because Matt is an unapologetic fan of these Disney live action remakes. Matt even stumped for Dumbo. I remember when Matt was like the sole cheerleader for Dumbo, but that it wasn't terrible. You didn't love it, but you were like, actually, you enjoy all of it.
No, I did not. No, I did not, because
we can dig it up. I'm pretty sure there's a podcast we did about that. Did you not?
No.
We reviewed Dumbo.
I feel like we did. All right.
I don't remember seeing it.
This is all, look, maybe none of this matters. This is all from a world that we lost in a timeline that's never coming back. So who knows? But I mean, they are kind of like Marvel products now, where it's just like, okay, we're getting another, you're what you're getting. These are like fast food offerings. Like, what this is going to taste like. I think this one might have a little secret sauce on it, is all I'm saying. Yeah, it's going to be a Big Mac, but it might have they might roll out some new secret sauce for this one. Like, come try our Serengeti sauce. Like, it's great, and it could taste a little different. So,
also, yeah, I haven't been checked into any of these. Stumpy for Dumbo. It's okay.
Yeah, I haven't been checked into any of these since the Jungle Book. I was like, oh, that was nice. Christopher Walken as an orangutan. That was weird.
Scooby-Doo.
Oh yeah, and then after that, I was like, okay, I'm out. Yeah. So
I feel like they're just hit or miss.
Janelle, I'm always curious how you feel about these kinds of things.
Oh gosh,
you can get surprisingly dark about some of this and be like, man,
I know. I'm such a like.
But you're gonna have to watch so many of these, like the rest of us, pretty soon.
I know. No, I mean, I love like the Disney princess stuff, and it feels very different between like live action and the animated when we're talking about Disney princess movies like Beauty and the Beast or Cinderella or whatever. But I have the hardest time going, this is a live action of animation, because this is animation to me. So these aren't real animals. Like, they're still like CGI. So I'm so confused.
Real. They look real though.
I guess.
Yeah, I think it's just,
I don't know. It's just a weird thing. I've always struggled with this. I never watched the live action Lion King. Am I going to watch this? Yeah, I'm going to watch it. But am I going to go to the theater for it? No.
Yeah, I'll be there because family films codes. I mean, people give this a hard time, but I feel like not enough people have kids that are forcing them to watch Dog with a Blog on Disney Plus like me. Ugh. I mean, Disney's been cranking out these talking animal products all throughout the 2010s, and that is dark, because that is some of the cheesiest, like weirdest stuff I've ever seen. But kids love it. So
there's I think it's a Ulysses. There's the one with the squirrel that's actually kind of fun. I can't remember what it's called.
I don't even know.
Ulysses.
Yeah,
it's on Disney. Anyway, it was good.
Anyway, this is here. It's going to be our job to see it, so we'll probably see it and we'll tell you about it. But let's get back into some more stuff that's more traditionally comic book nation-y, and jump over to X-Men land. So, Connor, I don't think you've been on since we've started talking. Have you been on since we talked to X-Men 97?
A couple of the early episodes, but it's been a minute.
Okay. All right, so we're getting into the finale now, and this was the first part of the finale. It was called Tolerance is Extinction. Yeah, man, X-Men 97 continues doing crazy things. I don't even have to get that deep on this. This show is, now that Shogun's gone, this is now the #1 show in my rotation. You made it up to top ho over here. You're in the rotation. But yeah, it's this finale it was crazy. There was a lot, again, that we pack into just like 30 minutes of TV, and the amount of stuff that we can pull off.
And we're frozen, I believe.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah,
thought it was me. I thought it was just lost audio. Okay.
me too.
Well, he was gonna say how much he's looking forward to Mufasa in
Of
X-Men.
course.
There is a crossover coming. You didn't know it, and it's gonna be live action, but it's gonna be animated. So
It's
there
gonna
you
be an
go.
actual animal coming through.
Providing the
Attacks
context there.
everyone on set. Um,
So yeah, let's move into X-Men 97 then while he's jumping back on here. So Connor, because you haven't had a chance to jump in on this, what do you thought to this point, some of the big twists and stuff along the way, and this episode in particular?
Sure. Well, I was brought to tears by episode 5. That was the Genosha, wipeout episode. When Magneto breaks out the German, when something terrible is happening, that's when stuff has truly hit the fan. And at this point, this week's episode, the only way I can describe it is in 2 words, and that's Gyat damn, because this is some good stuff. I am legitimately at a point now where I'm worried if the MCU is willing to match what this show is trying to do. If they're willing to go to some of the levels that this show is hinting at indirectly and directly. What really got me, because I watched this one twice on a rewatch, was you have the little monologue from Bastion about overloading the senses of witnesses to the point where it just becomes white noise and their only option is apathy when their skin isn't in the game. And I went, wow, that is like ripped from this week's headlines. That's how good this writing is. And then later in the episode, it hits you with the point, which is, yeah, this feels familiar because this is deja vu to us. This is the cyclical pattern we find ourselves in with oppressed groups over and over. And then it hits you with the line of Magneto was right. And that just hits so much harder than seeing it on a t-shirt in a few Grant Morrison panels. Like, that's going to become just the rallying cry of X-Men fans going forward. Like, it's a line so many have used in the past, but now an entire generation has been hit with that idea. And it's like, man, it is really hard to argue at this point. And then it ends with Xavier showing up, and it's like, I hope I'm not too late. It's like, man, you could have been here a few months ago, and this really would have helped.
You are late. That should be the first sentence that comes out of their mouths.
Now,
you are late.
Let me ask you guys
suck.
this, 'cause
Why are you leaving?
I'm seeing some debate about this. Should this have been the first time we see Xavier this season? Because, like, as much as I loved all the stuff with the She-Ra and the little space council thing and him having some quips back and forth and the mental, like, classroom thing he did, would it have hit harder if this was the very first time we had seen him since the death?
Absolutely. Yeah, that storyline didn't really the space thing didn't really mean much to me. Like, I didn't feel moved by it. I was interested in it, but I was like, get me back to Earth. Like, I need to know what's going on with the X-Men. And I don't know. I wasn't surprised. I think we all knew that he was coming, at some point. So it wasn't really much of like a, oh my gosh moment.
I'm conflicted because I think that was necessary to set up things like, obviously, like, we see the first ramifications of that here, right? It's that the fact that the footage was revealed, people like, there's a couple of different things that are showing how much of the long game Bastion has played and is turning everything back in against the mutants, where it's been in their favor for a minute, right? So it's all been part of his plan. Now, I think you need that if the Shi'ar and stuff are gonna factor in these, in this, how it brings this season to a close, then I think it's absolutely necessary, because otherwise then people would be like, have a lot of questions. Yes, you could have filled those in after, but like, it really depends on how the finale is. If it brings some of that back up to relevance, then yes, I think it was ultimately you needed to do it. I still think looking back, you could have worked it in better because that episode as a whole did feel very like, let's halt momentum completely and take you over here. It wasn't woven in. I would have preferred it being, that whole thing being woven in maybe over the course of like 2 episodes, maybe, instead of just here's this giant block that you need. But it just depends. So I'm kind of conflicted, but I understand it because that is easily like one of the not as strong, episodes of the season looking back.
I mean, but it was stronger than the gaming one. The gaming one just made no sense. I'm like still like, why? What? It was cool, but I just
this is like the generational gap where
Yeah.
if you were there for the 80s run and the original X-Men cartoon,
Yeah.
Jubilee is an all-time fave. But if you're like me, who my first show was X-Men Evolution, and going forward, Jubilee sucks. Homegirl can't fly, her powers barely work. She's in bad episodes. I'm sorry.
Oh, grenade.
You're saying
Love
an
it.
X-Men Evolution, right? You're not saying in the original series because that is, you're right. You're saying that, right?
Like the character
Now.
now is just, wow, this isn't working.
Oh my God, what a trash opinion. You come back on here after weeks away and you give the absolute garbagest opinion?
It's a generational divide,
What is
man.
that?
I have no connection to this 1980s
Oh my
Moldova.
God.
I actually really
Jeez.
like her. It was just that one episode that I was like, I don't know. Like, I feel like she represents that age group really well, and she's really cute. But
Oh.
yeah, I mean,
But she's
That
running
is a
around this
good point
episode
in
like,
the
"Wah,
comments."
I can't fly. It's like,
yeah.
It's
okay.
funny.
I'm the
That's called a
only one.
joke.
I'm the
It's called
only one that can't
humor.
fly. Yeah.
God. Anyway, okay. I will point out, Michael, in the comic space, a very good point. We are also moving right past like an MVP in Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler
Oh,
is
man,
fantastic.
yes.
6 reasons. No, my friend, you have 9. I was like, damn.
Yeah.
Nightcrawler has been such a wonderful addition to the regular group, and like, I mean, that character just is fantastic, and I feel like, we only got, people remember, we only really got one episode of him. It was one of the best episodes of the series, but we got one episode of him, the original 97 series. So having more of a spotlight on him here and just getting to see like why that character is so beloved shine through, I feel like we are spawning a new generation of Nightcrawler fans. Like, this show will have, done that. Kofi's back. Yay!
Yeah, power outing in my neighborhood.
You
for a
okay?
minute there. Yeah, there's no storms. There's nothing. There's nothing
Oh,
happening.
oh,
It's just
okay.
Nashville.
This town is a disaster. Let's
Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough.
all
Yeah.
agree. Morgan Wallen's
Here-
in town and he is messing stuff up.
Yeah, and throwing chairs off balconies. Dear red states, you guys don't have it together. Like, this stuff is just crazy. Oh my God, I got YouTube comments about Kendrick Lamar sparking back up in here. It's a mess. Anyway, so
wait,
yeah,
he
we just
hit
had a
with-
rant. Oh yeah, another one.
I'm very
yeah.
excited. I
Yeah,
listened
yeah.
to Euphoria. Oh boy. Oh, I'm so
Oh
excited.
no,
Okay,
he
anyway.
went back to back. Yeah, we got 616 in wherever it is. He did a Drake timestamp track. So yeah. But anyway, back to this. All I'll say, so we don't drag this out, is seeing Nightcrawler and Wolverine get busy on screen made me shed tears of just, it's hard for me, like I said, emotionally to get into this after so many years in the entertainment industry. But like, this was that moment where you're like murk out, where you're like, this is as if you're a kid again. You're like, I've always wanted to see this. And then, yeah, it's insane what this show is doing. Great start to the finale. Can't wait to see what they're adapting next. Check out our coverage because Bo DeMaio's dropping crazy Easter egg hints, like about Bastion's parents being 2 little bit characters from the X-Men animated series arc that helped them in the past when they fought those evil racists in the 1950s. So it's kind of cool stuff like that. And it's still comic booky. Mighty's kids like me and Matt, this was Operation Zero Tolerance. Like, I couldn't have asked for like a better adaptation while still being its own kind of thing. And Prime Sentinels were just as freaky as in the comics when we read them. So yeah. All right. X-Men's cooking.
Is this the second to last episode?
There's 2 more. It's a
2
3-part
more.
finale.
Oh,
Yeah.
Thank
3-part
God.
finale.
Oh,
Yeah.
you just made my day. Let's go.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not done yet. We got a couple more
Yes.
weeks. It's going to take us
Awesome.
right up to summer. So by the time it's over,
Heck
we'll be in summer.
yes.
And then it's the Acolyte right after that. So,
Nice.
we'll be back. Well, yeah, Disney Plus ain't letting you go. They
Thank you,
want
Disney Plus.
And we didn't think it. We were like, oh, they're going to have a tough year. And now we're like, oh, man, fire up that Disney Plus. All right. So moving right along, me and Connor went out and both saw a movie this week. And we saw The Fall Guy. Connor, it's been a minute since you've been on. Please, by all means, take it away and cook first on this. What did you think?
Sure. So this is David Leitch's latest, and he is quickly becoming one of my favorite directors between co-directing John Wick, Deadpool 2, Bullet Train, which nobody talks about, but I freaking love. I still listen to that soundtrack. And now this one, and this one is really it works on a few levels. It's a love letter to the stuntman community. It's an action romantic comedy in an era where we don't really try to do those anymore. And this one does, and it actually works. It's a surprisingly meta film where it talks about different filmmaking techniques that they're trying to make for their fake movie while the actual movie is using them. The whole thing is scored to different versions of Kisses I Was Made for Loving You before it actually drops in the climax. There's a scene where Taylor Swift's All Too Well plays over a romantic montage and then it immediately gets made fun of. This is just really funny. And more than anything, this felt like the culmination of Ryan Gosling's evolution as a comedic actor. 8 years ago, we saw him in The Nice Guys. And that was fun. He's kind of aloof. He keeps messing up, but you can tell there's really something there. And then last year, he just dominated the conversation as Ken in Barbie, and he had that kind of lovable himbo aspect to him. This felt like he was able to merge the two into a genuinely funny character. And my main takeaway after this was I really want more comedies out of this guy because he's got something special about it where he's not trying too hard like a Ryan Reynolds, but you want to root for him and you want to see whatever relationship he's trying to get in to work out. So I enjoyed the hell out of this. Kof, I know you were like, it's cute. Is it too cute, though? So how'd you feel about this one? I think you're muted.
I am muted. Thank you. Yeah, I did say that, but I mean, really, I said it's cute, and then I said super cute because it is very super cute and almost saccharine in any number of ways, whether it's the romance angle or the love of filmmaking angle to it. Or just like the celebration of Emily Blunt and Ryan Gosling as two, charismatic stars. It's all kind of working at the same time. So it's very cutesy. And there's this movie doesn't necessarily challenge you in any kind of way emotionally. It's just popcorn and it's just entertainment. And it makes you kind of relook. There's a great sequence at the end that I won't say where they show you the scenes from the movie again with the actual stunt people involved in it. And kind of just let them shine for a minute. And that kind of sums up how, and they play a song about I'm sure that stunt people play in bars all the time. And is their theme song. It's some country song about a stunt man. And anyway. And so it is very much about the stunt thing. And David Leitch is at least finding, you didn't mention Atomic Blonde in there, but also a great film. Yeah. Which they show in this.
Uh-oh.
They got him again.
No,
this man is cursed. But yes, to play off what Kofi is saying, at the start of the movie, they just flat out show you different clips from movies that David Leitch has been involved in or franchises that he's been tied to, and it just shows the practical stunt work happening. And part of what makes this movie work is that I'm not sure if it was outright claimed that it's all practical stunts, but they try to go as real as possible with this. So you're getting car jumps, boat jumps, big old explosions, hand-to-hand fights like it's John Wick, Jackie Chan fights where he's beating the hell out of 3 guys with a couple of champagne bottles and they don't smash until the actual final hit. It's just a ton of fun with this one. And more than anything, I hope this movie works because it goes against what so many critics of Hollywood are talking about right now, which is, oh, nothing gets off the ground unless it's a major franchise. We don't do comedies anymore. And the star power of actors isn't enough to get people into theaters. So much of the marketing around this movie centered around Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt just being two great stars.
They're amazing.
To me, I really hope that's enough to make this thing a success. And then on top of that, it's the great action scenes and the practical stunt work and the lack of a need for CGI. So if this works, I hope Hollywood takes the right lessons from it. They don't usually do that, but my fingers are crossed.
That's fair.
So we should definitely go into the theater and see this.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I
I
want
was
to. It looks
already
awesome.
hooked on the trailer because the trailer I just really loved. But I will say, like, I just love watching. I have adored this press tour because
Mhm.
they're just so fun. I mean, it's a lot of the same reasons that, like, when Dwayne Johnson and Emily Blunt, key point there, Emily Blunt, or John
this
Krasinski and Emily Blunt. There is a running theme here. Emily Blunt is just delightful.
So
It
like,
really is.
Jungle Cruise didn't work for me, but a lot of what that movie is trying to do, this movie nails.
But the
Cool.
press tour, it's
Well, that
just
too.
the press tours of movies with them are just delightful and showcase chemistry. And this movie, though, looks like it also has the ability to kind of also back up the talk and walk the walk and have a product that, you know, reflects that too. So this looks cool. I'm excited for this. Well, you probably noticed we lost Kofi. Kofi's having some power issues, but we're gonna take a quick break, and then when we come back, Kofi's going to be we're gonna be doing some Star Wars, we're gonna be talking some wrestling. So see you in a minute. Welcome back. Welcome back. What's up, Jamie? How are you, buddy? Welcome to the show. I'm so glad you could jump in here. We are going to be talking about Star Wars Bad Batch, something very close to your heart.
Yeah, speaking of close to my heart, I just want to say I'm a little offended you guys didn't let me partake in the X-Men conversation. It's not like I've got all this X-Men stuff over here in the backdrop, but it's fine.
so
You don't
sorry.
want my X-Men opinions, you won't get my X-Men opinions. It's good. It's fine.
Well, it doesn't seem fine. You seem very personal.
I am not offended at all. No.
Amazing, man. But yeah, I know this is the also real quick, I just want to address something because I did just notice that I feel like the Eye of Sauron right now. I see everything. Discordia Comic Shop. Yes, we do review everything. We also do review comics. It got so big that we ended up moving it to its own show, The Pull List, which you can find every single Wednesday. So we do cover it. It got too big to cover here, but that means we get to cover more comics. All right. So had to address that real quick because I noticed that during the break. Jamie, how are you feeling about Bad Batch putting this series to a close? I feel like it's been under the radar a lot.
Yeah, it hasn't gotten as much. I mean, so they started Disney Plus animation for Star Wars with the Clone Wars, that final season. I feel like that one had a lot of extra hype because people had been waiting for it for so long because it got canceled so many years ago and there were so many unproduced scripts that people already knew about. This spinoff, it hasn't it's now dealing with all of the live action Star Wars getting so much of the attention. So it has been a little bit under the radar, but if you haven't checked the series out, it's 3 seasons. It starts off as basically like, it's like the A team in the Star Wars universe. It starts off with just them going on weird missions, and then it eventually builds to the stuff that connects to the bigger Star Wars mythology and all of that stuff. So if that appeals to you at all, it's a very like Force light version of Star Wars if you've had your fill of like Jedi stuff. So yeah, it's very cool. And yeah, it just ended this week. They bring a lot of things to a close. They set up, you know, nothing in Star Wars really ends anymore. It's this ongoing thing, kind of like comic books now. So every time they end something, they're also queuing something else up. So it ends, and as someone in the comments mentioned, there's this great last scene. They haven't announced any future ongoing animated series, but it sets up one of the major characters, Omega, for like her own series of adventures if they choose to do that, by basically tying this show, which comes right at the end of like the Clone Wars, to the Rebellion era in a very cool way. So yeah, it was really it was a good show, and they ended it as neatly as they could. The final episode is a little bit, I don't know what the right word is, blunt maybe. It's kind of, there aren't a lot of surprises in the final episode aside from that ending showing, you know, kind of what happens to Omega and the Bad Batch a little bit in the future. But yeah, it ties everything up pretty neatly. The only exception being there were these very mysterious soldiers in this last season, and it kind of leads you to think there might be a reveal about their identity, and there's not. They're just they're just mid bosses.
Oh, so it's like
basically.
the Knights of Ren.
Yeah, yes, that is exactly what it is. It is the like Bad Batch version of the Knights of Ren. So yeah, that's pretty much all it announced to, and it does kind of. One of the more fun things about the series, it brought back Mount Tantus, which is this big location from the Legends continuity, where like you get your Luke, or however you pronounce it, which is the evil clone of Luke Skywalker. We don't get any of that, unfortunately, but I guess the mountain's still there. They could go back and do weirder stuff. But yeah, it's a satisfying finale, and if they were to come back and do more stuff with Omega, I'd certainly be there to see what happened next. Have you watched any of this, Matt? Did you give it a try at all?
Yeah, so and that was kind of my main question coming into it, because like I watched the first season, and then just because of stuff, I kind of fell off. You know, it's like, okay, like there was stuff to watch, and I would like jump in here and there to like kind of catch recaps here and there. Like it wasn't like a true viewing, right? And so but like I have family who are like love the show, like adore it. So looking back on it now as a complete thing, do you feel like it's kind of must-see viewing for like, do you feel like it's must-see viewing at all, but also for like a particular set of Star Wars fans, like this is something they really need to watch? Or is it just kind of like, hey, if you want more, it's here?
I mean, if you're the kind of Star Wars fan who is mostly interested just in the movies, this isn't from a like essential part of the Skywalker saga like perspective. It's not that. It is very not entirely self-contained, but like if you watch the Clone Wars and liked the Clone Wars, you should come watch this, because this finishes a lot of those Clone War characters' stories, particularly the ones who didn't end up in some other live action project, and leave some of them dangling. Like the Asajj Ventress coming back this season, as they revealed in the trailer, was a huge thing that got a lot of people, including myself, excited, because we all thought she was dead based on that book they put out off of one of the unproduced episodes. And she's only in one episode, and you don't really get much of an explanation about where she's been and what she's been doing and what happens after that. So if you were attached at all to any of those Clone Wars characters whose stories kind of went unfinished, you should definitely come watch this. If you just want more like Clone Wars style stuff, or to see how like the Clone Wars and the Clone Army more specifically kind of devolves into the era of the Empire with stormtroopers and stuff. This fills in that gap. But as far as where it fits in the larger like canon and stuff, it is mostly self-contained. It does do that thing a lot of Star Wars, like the expanded universe stuff, the comics and stuff is doing now, where it's trying very hard to make it seem like the Emperor Palpatine reveal in Rise of Skywalker was not something they just came with up with at the last minute when they realized they had to figure out a way to finish this thing. So that's where like the Project Necromancer stuff comes in, and it kind of explains like how that ends up on Exegol, where we find it in the movies, and why nobody in the original trilogy seems to talk about it. Basically, it went haywire and got postponed. But yeah, so if you're interested in every nook and cranny of Star Wars, then this would be that. Or if you just want good Star Wars animation like Clone Wars, then this is also that. If you're content with just the live action stuff, just the movies, nothing here is going to explain anything that that the live action shows haven't already, basically. If that makes sense. I rambled on there for a bit.
Yeah, for sure. No. Kofi, you all good?
I'm still in Nashville, man. I'm still dealing with all of this. So no, not really. Like, 6 years of doing a live show where I got to deal with this all the time. It's disconcerting. But yeah, I will just say that bouncing off of the tail end of what Jamie was saying here, I would say that this show is it's one of those lunchroom table shows. It's for anybody that ever said, like, I wonder whatever happened to all the clones, or how did they get rid of all the clones, or how did all the clones become stormtroopers? This is for you. And in telling this story, they told a lot of more important stories, like the first Mount Tantus arc with Crosshair. It came out, I think, when the Mandalorian season 3 was coming out, and I think I posted something that got a lot of hate from people, which was like, I think, at that time, Clone or Bad Batch was firing better than, the Mandalorian. And yeah, people came for me for saying that, but I was totally serious. That Mount Tantus episode where Crosshairs has to escape from that is like one of the most serious stories about like war and soldiers and PTSD and like all this stuff that, I've ever seen. So I think Bad Batch just shows also the maturation of Star Wars animation from Clone Wars and that kind of unfocused storytelling they were doing there to like where we got with Rebels, and then kind of moving into this series is the most mature one yet in terms of, we got that 3 clear season arc. We did boom, 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 boom. We knew where we were fitting. And I'll say to the credit of this show, it never stepped outside. It perfectly kind of balanced, helping fill in certain points that we needed to know or just were curiosities to know about, but never letting that stuff drag it down, never letting the rest of the canon drag it down. And yeah, and having its own space and own characters and own story. And it managed to stick the landing of being able to wrap up those characters without any massive waves to continuity that we then have to go figure out. The only thing we got to figure out now is the whole Ventress thing, right? So yeah, and if you look into the finer points of other clues and other shows and other movies, like what there's even, and I wrote about this in the ending explained article, but you do get to a point where Clone Force 99 may have done that little bit that, really saved the universe's ass in the long run because of what they stopped from happening and the ripples of that you then can track through the rest of the franchise. So, I put up Bad Batch as my second favorite after Rebels, I think. Now, mind you, I love all these Star Wars animation things, but like in terms of what I like the most, I think Rebels is still my favorite, but then Bad Batch is my second favorite, and then Clone Wars comes after that.
Yeah, you touched on something that I think is important there, which like the clones and the fact that they were fighting a galactic war gets overshadowed a lot by all the Jedi stuff in like the prequels and in the movies in general. So this show really did do a great job of like honing in on them, on unpacking all the like psychological damage that literally being a creature bred for war must do to you. And yeah, that factored a lot into this last episode where it's like, it's so incredible that any one of them lived long enough and managed to carve out a place where they could choose to not do that or choose to go back and do more of that, as the case may be, because they end up in different places. So yeah, that I think thematically it fills in a very important role for Star Wars that had gone kind of overlooked by a lot of the other stuff.
And more importantly, it humanized the clones, and you know, no pun intended, but like it actually gave identities to these characters. You know, we had Captain Rex and some of them from Clone Wars, but the Bad Batch is different because they are these individualized kind of people who are in the middle. They're not quite like these other clones. They're not quite individuals, and they were just kind of in the middle of everything. So yeah, but the only thing this show did do is leave us with some hanging threads with what the hell Ventress is doing, and now, you know, they created a whole new Boba Fett class with that CX class of clone, you know, experts. Now people are like, I need more CX. So, all right, Jamie, thank you for hopping on and taking the baton in this moment of internet craziness to talk about Star Wars: The Bad Batch. Be on the lookout because Jamie's going to be back and helping me in June when we are going to be getting a new segment of Comic Book Nation out where we'll be covering more sci-fi stuff, and we'll be starting with the Acolyte. So Jamie will be at the forefront of helping us, you know, do recaps and talk about the Acolyte and do all that. So thanks, and thank you for covering all this stuff, and thank you, Jamie, for hopping on.
Sure thing. Thanks for having me.
All right. I'm back, but I never know for how long because Xfinity sucks, Nashville sucks, and, you know, this is all going crazy right now. So let's get back to something we can talk about real quick together, and then we'll let Matt and Connor cook just in case, so I don't even have to be seen in this anymore today. Unfrosted. Netflix's Unfrosted. So this was, I was very curious about this because this is Jerry Seinfeld's directorial debut, and man, what a road to get here we've had with Seinfeld going out and, you know, being the latest old man comic to be like, it's not funny anymore because you ruined comedy. And he took a massive L on that one. I won't lie, bro. You took a massive L saying you can't make sitcoms anymore. And everybody's like, bro, It's Always Sunny is still running. What are you talking about? Rob McElhenney had a perfect response because he said something. Seinfeld said something effective. I don't think we could do the homeless guy rickshaw episode anymore. Could you imagine if we made that? And Rob McElhenney from Always Sunny in Philadelphia posted a picture of Rickety Cricket in like one of the later seasons with on one eye, meth, cigarette in his mouth. And he was like, probably. He was like, probably, yeah, he probably could. And then so, yeah, not to mention, you know, Larry David did Curb for all those years. Julia Louis Dreyfus did Veep, very PC show, that one, you know, like, yeah, so I don't know. So it was going to be interesting, especially when you set yourself up like that, to see what Seinfeld's comedic sensibilities were going to be with this movie. I got knocked out of the Fall Guy right when I was about to get into the whole point of how seamlessly that movie kind of transitions from like seriousness and real worldness to just absurdity. Like there's a great scene with a whole sword fight that turns out to be like an actress girlfriend and a rubber sword, but it plays in the movie like it's an actual stunt sequence. Like there's people
and everything with the unicorn, which is all I won't spoil why, but that whole running gag.
Yeah, it's hilarious. And like, yeah, there's an actual horse in there. So this movie does kind of the same thing as what I'm saying. Like it seems like it's a throwback to like that 1950s era, but then it kind of constantly goes into that zany absurdist land where we're leaving actual history and just getting into like, you know, absurdist comedy. I thought it was okay. I mean, it was on, it was there, and there were funny people, and it was kind of silly, it was kind of stupid, but you know, it's a directorial debut, so I always try to weigh that. And I could say that Seinfeld, at least, I feel like he has a vision and a voice. It needs some definite refining, but it's there. And by the end, I didn't mind this kind of what he's doing with this kind of line between real life and absurdy, slapsticky life. Like those can be fun, and we don't do that anymore, really. So it can be fun, but yeah, this was just for me, this was like the rough cut of somebody starting to get into filmmaking and you know, doing their first film. I put it up there with like Charlie Day from It's Always Sunny, who did what's that called, Fool's Paradise or something like that, like a year ago, which is another kind of absurdist Chaplin comedy style type deal.
Sure,
but yeah, it's all right. I've talked enough. I don't trust my internet. You guys take over, please.
Janelle, what do you think?
I couldn't sleep at 5 o'clock in the morning, so I turned this on. And it put me back to sleep, which was great. It was definitely but in a comforting, but let me explain, in a comforting way. It wasn't like, oh, I'm so bored. It was like, oh, this is good, wholesome fun. Like I don't have to be intensely watching or listening. I can enjoy it like in a relaxed way. And I
Gotcha.
love that kind of programming right now at this stage in my life. I'm hanging on for dear life in my third trimester, trying to battle insomnia and feeling like my spine is about to crack in half. So like this was actually great for me. And I jumped right back into it when I woke up and watched it. And it's cute. It's fun. It's cute. It's a little stupid at times, but I think the reason why it works for me is because there are so many roles that some of my favorite actors are in. So like I love
Yeah.
Hugh Grant. I love seeing like so many of the dudes from Saturday Night Live, like so many comedians that I love. It's just seeing them makes me I think it just gives it way more street cred than it ever would have had because the cast is just stacked.
Oh yeah, this is a
Yeah.
different movie when Melissa McCarthy finally comes into it. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Then
Oh,
I was
yeah.
I was
like,
gonna say
sitting up
she
a little
steals
bit.
the show. She steals the
Yeah.
show.
She's so good.
In so many ways.
I mean, and
But yeah, I
Schumer
agree
does a
with you.
good job too.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's the only thing is like I wish I knew if any of this was true because like there are certain parts that obviously they didn't make a little creature, but I'm like, was there actually like a rivalry? Did they live in the same or like were both of these
So
businesses in the same city? I don't know,
Yeah.
but
well,
whatever.
there's
I'm
a
buying
grain
it.
of truth in that Post had something, a pastry on the way.
Yeah,
Kellogg's found out about it with like a month before it dropped and then sprinted to make the Pop Tart.
that's
That
really
is true.
cool.
Everything else about
Yeah.
this is which is why Seinfeld came up with
You mean
pitched
there
the
wasn't
idea
a
during
talking
COVID.
ravioli pastry?
It was made to look like a doily almost. Like that's why no one hears about it.
I think
Yeah.
that's for me the biggest takeaway is that like the behind the scenes stuff has been probably more compelling than and also the press tour that Seinfeld's been on has been more compelling than the movie itself, right? Like the fact that like he didn't really want to do it, you know, it took years of convincing. It was, you know, it was only done. I mean, he's even said like, you know, the only reason this got made was because of the pandemic and like forcing people to like look at projects. What can we do outside the box? We can't film, right? And then it had been, you know, like a partner of his, friend of his, been trying to get him to do it for years, and he finally, you know, kind of gave in. And then they were like, okay, well, we can have fun with this, right? And it's just they didn't even like get the rights from Kellogg's or whatever. Like they found out about it like after it already been done. Like there's so much stuff that is to me more interesting from a like I'm invested in the story about how it got made than what's here. But what I will say is that I'm with Janelle. Like it was fun. It was kind of dumb. You know, but it very much is that kind of comfort food. Ironically, that, you know, that sitcom-y style that he's talking about. It's kind of in that vein. I just wish like the performances, like there's some characters that, you know, pop up here and there, and the cast, like the amount of comedic talent in this is huge. I just wish, you know, some of them had more to do and stuff. So but McCarthy for me, like that's really why I was excited about it anyway. I will watch anything McCarthy's in, at least give it a shot, because I just enjoy her so much. So I think she's fantastic here.
Yeah, if you watch our press interviews on comicbook.com, it's very clear that Christian Slater had no idea what the hell he was doing in this movie. He showed up, he said he got yelled at by Seinfeld for like a day and was like, okay, and left and was like, I have no idea what's going on. And you could tell that in this movie. But yeah, I will say without spoilers, and I'm going to write this up after we're done, there is a crossover with a major acclaimed TV show in this, and I found that delightful. I was like, oh my God, when that happened, I was like, no, they did not. And I was laughing my butt off. So yeah, there's a crossover with acclaimed TV show. They bring the stars back for like a little cameo, and that was pretty hilarious. I was like, okay, that's funny. So yeah, it's harmless, it's fun, it's like it's a silly thing. I'm pretty sure you can, like, if you have like kids around, like, you know, approaching double digits and stuff, you could just sit down and put this on and you're fine. But yeah, like I said, there's something with Seinfeld making stuff again, but he's still got to work on it a little bit. But read the story about making this movie, like Matt said. All right, let's slip into Connor and Matt. You guys get to talk wrestling. Matt, you get to talk about your agenda and take us to the end of this show. I didn't even get to do any spiel during Bad Batch. I wore a Star Wars shirt. It's May the 4th and Cinco de Mayo this weekend. It's going to be crazy, but none of that matters anymore. All right, guys, take it away. WWE Backlash. Outlaw out.
Thank you, buddy. Thank you so much. So yes, we have WWE Backlash happening this Saturday in France, and this is the first pay-per-view, or sorry, I apologize, premium live event.
You pay to view it. It is a pay-per-view. I hate this name change.
That's what they call it.
I don't care.
So it is the first one since the 2-night epic WrestleMania. I guess going first, we'll start here. Cody's got his first title defense, pay-per-view title defense, right? With AJ Styles. And you're starting to see more like discussion pick up online about like the differences between like the Triple H regime and the Vince regime, and would this match have ever happened on, in the Vince one? Some of that talk, and obviously like who is, more respected than AJ Styles. This is going to be a wrestling matches fan, like a fan of wrestling matches. This is going to be a match for them. How do you feel about the match itself? Obviously, I don't think Cody's losing, so like, that's kind of in the bucket, but who do you want to see? What should be his next big feud for Cody?
Sure. So as for the match, I'm hyped for it because it's AJ. He's one of the best to ever do it. He's going to deliver. And they're really going into this show banking on the fact that it's France. And every time they go there, the crowd just loses their mind for everybody because they don't get wrestling like this very often. So when they do, they relish it. There was famously the story last year. Baron Corbin got a great ovation from the crowd. And nobody cared about him because it's France and they love their WWE folks. So this is very much we're coming for a pay-per-view, but you're getting 5 matches. None of them have the result really in doubt. This one being the prime example. But more than anything, it's to show that Cody is a different kind of champion than Roman. He's wrestling a lot more. He's around a lot more, and you're going to get great matches, hopefully like this one. As for what's next, you look at how the roster shaped up. I thought Gunther Cody was the obvious pick for either SummerSlam or Bash at Berlin, but they kept them separate. And if it were to be believed, the brand split is being enforced for now. So that's not going to happen. I think Randy Orton is the obvious pick. He's just been kind of spinning his wheels since he returned from injury. This makeshift tag team with Kevin Owens is fun. And while I think laid back babyface Orton is actually a lot more fun than some of his previous incarnations, it's always a matter of time before he goes back to being a heel. And there is so much story to be told.
I think that's the biggest thing. Right. Yeah.
And it also puts Cody once again on the back foot. With, Randy knew this guy when he was a young boy. He knew him when he was absolutely brand new to this business and helped raise him up. And if we're being quite honest, behind the scenes and some of the intangibles, Randy obviously taught him a lot. But if you look at how he was presented on TV, Cody suffered. It was DiBiase who was kind of being positioned as you're the obvious breakout of the two. And that never really transpired. It was only after Legacy broke up, then Cody did the dashing and the undashing thing that he started to build some momentum for himself. So they can build into that too. And what I love is that with babyface champions, WWE often struggles to keep their reigns interesting because it's either you stack the deck so much against them in a how can they overcome the odds type of situation, or they're just dominant and they run through whatever monster you put up against them month after month. This is a different dynamic. And it once again puts Cody in an underdog position. And I'm all for that. This can carry us for months. It can go through all these different international pay-per-views they've got until they're back in Cleveland for SummerSlam. I say go for it.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. I think I wasn't surprised that Gunther stayed on Raw because he just, Raw needs main attractions, right? And with certain champs locked in for each brand, you knew, okay, like they got like I just felt like there was no way. But they made me happy when they drafted Ilya. I'm very happy for that throwdown. Main roster people are going to get quite the introduction to that moving
Do
forward.
you,
So
do you
Gunther
think
will
he's just
have no
joining
shortage.
Imperium? Is that where we're starting with that?
I think either he's going to surround it or they're going to have him join and then turn, right? That'll be the natural thing there. So it would be either way. I'm actually okay with either way. But it does make sense with booting, Giovanni, that like, oh, you cleared the spot, you have, and then also he's on the other brand, right? So you've cleared the deck for him. But for Cody, I think right now it makes all the sense because I agree with you. This is the most I have enjoyed Randy since the Riddle stuff because I like fun Randy. I don't like, I'm sometimes get bored with, straight up Viper Randy. Like that just, that's not my favorite version. I enjoy the kind of more upbeat version. But what's great is you don't have to lose that with Cody because what I think Orton has done really well is still maintain the whole like he's a lethal predator regardless of whether he's joking or not. Dude will turn on you in a second, hit you with an RKO even if he likes you. Dude RKO'd the GM, right? He's kept that unpredictability even though he's having fun. So he can turn that on with Cody, especially when they start bringing up the baggage, they start bringing up that stuff. Randy has a reason to get irritated. Like, all that stuff can happen. And we just still don't lose some of the fun stuff about him. So I think that's a no-brainer, especially with the way the rosters are stacked now. And that moves us to, another picture, right? Because we have another setup for Backlash being that, Damage Control, the Kabuki Warriors, specifically Asuka and Kairi Sane, will be defending their titles, their women's tag team titles, against the powerhouse group, Bianca and Jade. Now, as the person who covers SmackDown, I was very happy that Bianca and Jade were staying as far as on the SmackDown roster, but giving them the tag titles makes all the sense in the world. Number one, just two of your biggest stars, one your biggest up and coming star and your other one your tried and true face, right? And then having those titles on them allows them to go everywhere, so the Jade show and the Bianca show can go everywhere. And then eventually, the hope is anyway, you turn them, one of them, right? And then we get into the feud that everybody eventually wants. So how long, I guess my thing is, one of the things that has plagued those titles is a hot potatoing of the title, like not giving someone a really long reign. And also, if you do give them a long reign, they don't defend them very much. Like it
Well,
feels
Matt,
like it was.
Didn't you hear they were cursed by Scottish witches? Well, that's not fair. I think Albufire is Irish. One of them's Irish. They're Celts.
Albufire is
Celtic
Irish.
witches.
I think no, Albufire's Scottish, and
okay, it's the other.
Yeah, Isla Dawn is Irish. I believe. Don't quote me on that, but I believe. So yeah, do you think we'll get a long run here? Is this a thing of, a month down the road we, hot shot this? How you feeling?
So back when Jade signed, I don't know if it was out of pettiness or if it was an honest critique, but Triple H made a point in a press conference to say she wasn't ring ready, that she hadn't,
Right.
that there was some questionability to her training. Mind you, she was trained by Bryan Danielson and Dustin Rhodes, so that those two things don't quite mesh up because those are two of the best to ever do it. But he made that point. So that got me thinking about how concerned are they with her ability in the ring? Because the presentation is a 12 out of 10. It's everything else kind of needs to be brought up to that level. So you look at the WrestleMania 6-woman tag match, she was as protected as you can get with a limited performer. They are playing out the script of what do you do with someone who physically looks imposing, but in terms of in-ring ability is limited. You protect them in multi-man matches, and then you put them in a tag team with somebody who is much more experienced, can take a lot of the bumps, give her the hot tag, and let her shine each and every time. So I feel like that's where we're going with this, which has me thinking they're going to let this run for a while. Because initially when you pitched this idea, I thought, okay, either Kabuki's going to somehow retain and we just go right into Jade versus Bianca, or the reign lasts a month or two, and by midsummer, Jade is full heel and we're on a collision course for SummerSlam. I think this actually goes quite a while to where by the end of the year, they've either just lost the titles or they're still champions. And the actual
Interesting.
program isn't hinted at until the Rumble, because Jade
Leading
versus
into
Bianca is
WrestleMania.
the obvious end game. And if you're
Yeah.
going to do it at WrestleMania, it makes for a hell of a match. And
Yep.
hey, it's a match that doesn't involve a championship, which is always a strong sign for a division.
Yeah.
But up until that point, this gives Jade the chance to keep building up her in-ring ability and having Bianca as not only a great tag partner, but a great teacher. So
Yeah.
my money is on this one lasting a while.
Interesting. Which would be, for me, that's what the titles need. Number one, they need 2 stars to carry them. You have that here. And they need a long run, and they need to be defended on a regular basis. And the thing is, because I didn't think it would be that long, but I'm kind of riding with what you're saying. I think that's actually that would be a good plan and a win-win for everything, because to me, that's the key problem with her AEW run, is that I think both things can be true. She can have been trained by 2 amazing people. The problem was her television matches were so short and also pretty infrequent, but they were really short and with a rotating group, right? Because it was always like quick title defenses, squash person move, and it was like it was that. So she didn't get a lot of in time.
And never with the top stars in the division or the women that had been in it forever, like your Serena Deeb types, or your Thunder Rosas, like that.
Or even
that always bugged me of why the 2 paths never crossed. Like she was much like how Cody was booked in the back half of his AEW run. She was on an island.
Right, exactly. So I think, because I think there was truth to what Triple H was saying, but I also think it's true that like she was trained, like you're being trained by amazing people in the ring. So I don't think it was any slight on that. I think it was a slight of how that run was carried out. She was synonymous with that title, but I think her, like, probably some of that wrestling development suffered because of that. So I think here you're right. I think actively defending it, working with the best of the best, because you're going to get the top people in that division vying for those titles, but also you are constantly working with someone like a veteran at this point in Bianca, who's, you know what I mean, like, so especially of that system. So I think it's a win across the board. And I think you won me over. I think I would love to see that be, by the end of the year, them have the titles and then just start to build it into Rumble and WrestleMania and have that be the matchup. Because whenever they face off, it will work. It's going to be great. Real quick, and you mentioned it earlier, before we go, the WWE draft had a 2-night event. We got one return really in Braun Strowman.
We got the greatest,
as far as like people that
Patrick Mahomes showing his greatness on Raw with his 3 championship rings.
And we got some, obviously with this year, the rules changed. The champions who were coming out of WrestleMania stayed on their own brands. So like Cody didn't move, Sami Zayn didn't move, Bailey didn't move, all that. How do you feel about the draft overall? And what would you like to see implemented for next year's draft?
I feel like with next year, I love the timing, because I think right after WrestleMania is a great answer for when you should put one of these to shake up the 2 rosters. October never made sense. That felt like it's sweeps week, so we need to make the television ratings look better than they are. And it would always feed right into a Survivor Series where suddenly it was about brand loyalty and the brands didn't look the same as they did a week prior. So it didn't make any sense. So I'm fine with the placement. And I also get the search engine optimization of it all. The NFL draft is happening the same week. So when you type in draft, there's a chance you can get some attention out of that. I get that. The problem is the structure. And I think we need to take a look at how to reframe this to where it does not feel like a waste of time. Under no circumstances should this 2-night event be dedicated to people being drafted to stay on the same show that they're already on. There's no intrigue there. There's no excitement there. It's just, it's boring. Like, I remember coming out of the SmackDown show, it was like, how many people actually moved brands in those 2 hours? And the answer was like 2. And
SmackDown was super light on
it's
that.
like, well,
Yeah,
then
for
what's the
sure.
point in watching this if literally, okay, everyone's available, but everybody's going to stay exactly where they are? There's no point to that. And
Right.
there's no intrigue. So then it's a question of, okay, well, how do you make this interesting? And I have two ideas. One is you go back to the randomized version that we had in the late 2000s and early 2010s. And honestly, all the way back to some of the originals where, yeah, the two people that in authority are representing their brands, but it's a lottery. It's made to look random when in reality it's just a refresh for certain people. The other way is to present it like how they want to with the whole sports aspect to it. Because the reason we care about the NFL draft is that the worst teams get the potential best players out of college to change their fortunes. It's why there was intrigue around the Chicago Bears because, hey, they got the best quarterback and they got the second best wide receiver. Suddenly, their season's looking much brighter. I don't look at Raw or SmackDown and be like, wow, it's really going to look different now. No, it's going to feel the same. And there's no intrigue behind that. So I think instead of a draft, we go into something like an open contract season where suddenly brands are trying to sign wrestlers away from their opponents. And in exchange for, oh, okay, I'll take this contract. And in exchange, you get two of my wrestlers. We start doing trades. And that's where you can integrate more of the NXT aspect of it, which is the only real like drama to the draft now are the NXT call-ups, since we're not making the Raw after WrestleMania the universal sign for, okay, call-up time. Like if we're going to make it about that, focus on the NXT call-ups and trades. This whole I need to sign somebody back to the roster they're already on, that can be an email. That's not important. And that's not worth dedicating 5 hours of television to.
Man, you are on a roll today. I think that's a good idea. That's a really good idea. All right. So I think because I agree with you, my thought was just, like have like a set amount of trades that you could do. Like each brand gets like, the ability to like make, 3 trades or 5 trades or whatever. And then have your draft night literally just be NXT and be like, hey, we have, Raw has, but I love the idea of changing the amount of picks, because I think if you work that into the trades, then it's like you also have this running counter of like, yeah, Raw lost this, 3 people this week, but they now have 6 picks.
Right.
And like they can make 6 call-ups and then like I love that idea. I mean, obviously it's gotta be smaller because you can't like deplete the entire NXT, but like if one has 3 and the other has 1, like that kind of thing that adds intrigue, because it's like, okay, who are you gonna pick? You're probably gonna, if you have one pick, you're gonna go with just like bad NFL teams do, the top player. Doesn't matter what position they play, we're just gonna roll with it and go with that.
Right.
And likewise, if you have 3, okay, so here's the thing. In your plan, do they do like draft order, or is it like, does that factor in? Because that's a big deal in the NFL, right? Trading up for the first pick, all that.
Well, it could be like, hey, SmackDown traded Raw Kevin Owens in exchange for the first pick in the draft. That's another way you have people actually switching brands, is that it gives one brand the edge in getting more people out of NXT. Now, the problem with that, one of the big hiccups that you're going to run into is that wrestlers develop on their own pace. And some wrestlers are going to be more ready than others in a full calendar year. So you can try to be like, okay, we know that there are 6 guys and gals ready for the draft come May. But every year it might be, well, actually there's 8 guys ready. And in another year it might be, there's really only 3. And that's one of the roadblocks you're going to run into. But again, that is where the intrigue comes in of who actually gets picked. Like, could you imagine if Roxanne Perez got picked to one of the brands and then Ava came out and said, you can't just pick my champion, it hurts my division. In exchange for you giving me back Roxanne, I will give you da-da-da. Like, have this actually feel like a real draft. And let it play out a whole month and let there be intrigue.
Connor, we are agreeing so much today. It's almost disconcerting.
I'll bring back the Jubilee picks. I don't care.
I think You have recovered so well from that trash take. I just think we've come so far. And that is such a good idea. I'm really gonna be bummed if next year we don't get that. What I will say is, what I do actually hope they do though, I do like that the champs were locked, because it made WrestleMania matter, because you couldn't just move a bunch. Also, we didn't have any of that dumb swapping of titles, all that stuff. We
Which
omitted
is
all
funny
of that.
because they just fixed that problem, which is the titles aren't dedicated to the brands anymore. They're back to
Right.
WWE and World. So I'm
Yeah.
like, you fixed the problem and then eliminated the problem entirely.
But I'm okay with that. I'm okay with it. Like, I like that what we just learned at WrestleMania is still the case. Like, I like that they were locked in, and that includes NXT. Roxanne just became champ. I want that to stay, right? So I love that. I want that to continue. But everything else, I really hope we get. All right. Before we head over into my full agenda here, I want to get into some comments, because we had some great ones along the way. Distance nerding. Yes, I agree. Kaiser can have a breakout year. Kaiser has been underutilized quite a bit. And so, he's doing great in this role, but I feel like you can do so much more. And so having him turn on his other guy, having that be at the behest of Gunther, like, I hope we lean into more of that. He's great on the mic, and I would like to see more of that happen.
Can I talk about a couple? First of all, Richard, acknowledge your tribal chief. He is not Kermit the Frog. He is your 3-time champion. And number 2, distance nerding. You're damn right, Mahomes is a heel. We're the evil empire, brother. We got 3, and we're going for that 3-peat.
Oh my God, that was amazing. All right, I saw the Kermit thing and laughed. That was hilarious. Also, good on them. I know it wasn't even WWE. It was part of a sponsorship. I know that.
Yeah,
I know it was with Prime. He's working with the villain, Connor. Jeez,
I know.
He's working with Logan Paul.
I had people reaching out to me like, how do you feel about the Mahomes thing? I'm like, look, I hate that it was Logan Paul, but Pat Mahomes was on Raw. And when Trey Smith and Creed Humphrey just stood up to face off against Braun, who is a known Raiders fan, I'm like, oh, let's get after it.
Okay. Wow. It's amazing. All right. Before we roll out here, I'm going to get into my agenda for just a quick second. So everyone knows, looking at my background, I love action figures, fun stuff like that. And had a couple big things here to spotlight. Number one, thank you. This was shared with me on Twitter, and I thank you so much, because Todd McFarlane is trying to bankrupt me, and I'm pretty sure that the DC Multiverse line of toys I'm a big fan of. He's already done several Batmobiles, but he's now done one of my favorites. I think my favorite Batmobile of all time is still Batman the Animated Series Batmobile, but right up there with it is the Batman White Knight Batmobile, which, look at that beautiful, beautiful car. It's so cool. Like McFarlane's other Batmobiles, this one, the cockpit pops up. You can fit most of the 7-inch figures. That includes, by the way, the White Knight Batman, which I have almost all of the White Knight stuff. It is one of my favorite universes. He needs a car. And this is the car for him. And it's just, oh my God, it looks so cool. This is a McFarlane store exclusive, so you won't find this at Targets and Walmarts, at least not right now. It is up for pre-order now. It ships in June. It's a little pricey. It's $89.99. That's a lot. But from the reviews and stuff I read on some of the other Batmobiles, people have been impressed. The figures fit well. Obviously, it's a cockpit for one, right? So like some obviously have like, oh, why don't we have like a spot for 2, right? Because there's a bunch of Robins out there. But for this, I was really happy. It looks fantastic. So
it does, but Matt, you're forgetting the best Batmobile, which is the Batman Batmobile, which is just a 1970s Dodge Charger with a jet engine slapped on the back. I love this thing.
Yeah, look, number one, I love that car. That's a great car. There's a lot of great Batmobiles. Yeah, it's awesome. I also have a toy of that.
This is the Lego, and I'm so impressed with how they came out with this.
It looks so good, and I will look. I agree, Brightwood. 90s a lot, okay. And it's along the lines though of some of the other ones, and so it also is the exclusive. Also, to be fair, look, it is White Knight. It's not the first Batmobile they came out with was the oh my god, the Keaton Batmobile. So like White Knight doesn't have the same recognition and isn't possibly going to sell out as quick as that one. So I get it.
Literally
being a
looks like
storage
the
system.
animated series Batmobile with the tumbler slapped on the front.
Right. It's got the short thing and then the sides, and also in the comics, it's really cool what that car does. So that's really cool. Wanted to shout out that. Also, we were talking about X-Men 97 earlier. And Hasbro was kind enough to send over some of the 97 figures. I gotta say, like, number one, you can't see his face here because of my shiny light. But Magneto look like the sculpts are great. The colors pop. All of them except for one come with an alternate portrait, like a swappable head, and Magneto has like the angry face. These I'm really impressed with these. I got, of course, my boy Cyclops. Has the swappable head, so he's got kind of the smirk on one, and then he has the slot here where you can actually pop the optic blast out. It's awesome. He's also got 3 hands, and one of them is this. I swapped it to that because I just love when he touches the visor and fires it off. This might steal the show because Nightcrawler looks fantastic. Like that is the face and like the painting on the hair is fantastic. Like that is a great looking figure, and also he comes with an angry expression swappable head as well. I cannot believe I'm saying this, but the Executioner has no business going this hard. has no business being this freaking cool. He comes with, now here's my one quibble with the rest of the figures is that I would have loved like one more accessory. Like I would have loved for like Magneto to have had some kind of power effect for his hand. Cyclops has the optic blast, but like Nightcrawler doesn't have anything. So like I would have loved a sword. I would have loved maybe some kind of like teleportation effect that you could put behind him, something like that. But Executioner comes with the gun, and he comes with the 2 blades, and then he also comes with the Sentinel blaster that you can pop on his hand from the show. And then they all actually have the gun has a peg that fits into his back, so he can rep it like the art. And then these 2 actually plug into the gun, so he can have all of the weapons on one hole in the back. It's actually kind of ingenious, but like that sculpt is nuts. Like he looks so cool, way cooler than he was in the comics, and the show has done wonders for
ready
that.
to commit hate crimes.
And I don't know if you can tell, focus in on that, but like he's got his little the FOH on the belt. Like they did a really good job with these. So these are in stores now. Jean Grey is also there, as is Madeline. And both of them look great. I'm hoping to try and pick those up so I can complete the set, because Ember helped me open these and played with these and now wants the other ones on the back. So this looks to be a line I am now invested in and going to collect moving forward. So check those out. Those are in stores now. All right, we got to go. We've taken up a lot of time. I hope you've, yes, I know, right? Thank you, Distance. I need a sword on the tail. That needs a custom. That's a custom thing. So let's get, see if Kofi and Janelle want to hop back in. But as we do, you can check out all of our coverage on ComicBook Nation. We are hitting on all sides. Tuesday, we have Anime Initiative, which, by the way, if you're not watching that and not listening to the pod, I am learning so much about anime. It is fantastic. Then, of course, I really am. Like, they're amazing. It's so great.
Yeah, 6 years of me trying to get you guys to watch anime.
Well, they don't fall asleep next to me watching the movie they took me to.
Hey, man, I got to do a lot. I just fell asleep. I don't know if you just saw me throw out a blanket. I just fell asleep right now.
I'm used to it. Go fig. We then have the pull list, talking all about comics on Wednesdays. On Thursday, we have Quick Save. We just had a delightful discussion about the new Batman VR game over there in Funko Fusion. And then, of course, the main show where we get to talk to Kofi, Janelle, and Connor. Hey, how everybody? You want to send us out, Kof?
Go do some stuff. Be back with us. This is ComicBook Nation. This has been a long day. I'm out and I'm going to go celebrate. Peace.